What is post-human neo-feudalism? Well, close your eyes and imagine you're living in Blade Runner. Now open your eyes. You're already in Blade Runner. I'm Leo Light, and this is the Imperial Synaxis. Let's take it from the top. Ever feel like society sort of treats people like, well, resources? You're not alone. In fact, you're 100% on the money. Look no further than the corporate term HR, human resources. It's not a secret that the corporate world thinks of people as resources and not as human beings. There's nothing sacred about human life through the lens of the corporate machine. In other words, modern society is increasingly post-human. It's not a human-centered society anymore. No longer are institutions focused on advancing people, but rather on advancing the faceless corporate machine. It's not about helping you or me or the community anymore. The modern American system is all about optimizing humans to be the ideal parts and pieces to sustain megacorporations and increase the bottom line. No attempt is made to teach children critical thinking or analysis at school. Our entire system is dedicated to forcing children to memorize data and then regurgitate it without thinking. Also, they can pass a multiple choice exam. Not exactly a system that's going to produce any Da Vinci's, but maybe that's exactly the point. Then, after enough memorization and regurgitation, we're shoved into college. Nowadays, almost everyone goes to college. It's more thought of as a mandatory requirement rather than an optional certification like it used to be. Why is that? Well, because if the system can get us to buy in here, we'll be stuck in it forever. Why? Well, because most people have to take out copious amounts of debt to afford university. Debt that, by the way, many people spend the rest of their lives attempting to pay off. After graduating, you're forced to immediately get a corporate job so that you can try to pay off all that debt. But the system is designed in a way where the money you get paid at your job is never enough to cover the cost of your debt. Debt that you incurred so you could get a job in the first place. You're essentially a hamster who's been forced onto a wheel with a carrot dangling in front of you that'll always just be out of reach. In other words, you're stuck as a corporate gear now, endlessly spinning to support the very corporate machine that enslaved you in the first place. You can never leave because you can't afford to leave with all the crushing debt you incurred to enter in the first place. This is the way our society is set up. You could call it debt slavery. Debt slavery begins to get even more out of control when credit cards enter the equation. Pretty soon, most modern people find that they've racked up so much credit card debt to manage their daily expenses that now most of their possessions aren't even their own. The banks own your house, your car, your TV, your phone, and even you to some extent through your college degree. This is a system very much reminiscent of something straight out of the Dark Ages, feudalism. Feudalism is a social economic system where the vast majority of people were serfs, a kind of laborer who was completely bound to work the elite's land. They were stuck in a system where they were forced to work while owning none of the land or product that they worked. The elites who actually owned everything would allow their serfs subsistence living, and that was it. The workers, of course, could never leave or they would starve. They were trapped, plain and simple. The elites considered their laborers at this time to just be part of the land they owned. In other words, humans were resources, or capital. One could argue that this is essentially slavery with more steps. Although you aren't formally owned, that's merely a legal technicality and not the overall theme of the system. If the system is designed in a way that traps you and forces you to work while owning nothing, then for all practical purposes, they own you. How could you be a human resource or human capital if you aren't owned? I'm Leo Light, and this has been the Imperial Synaxis. I'll see you next time.